Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Liu. I'm an associate with Mid-America Applied Technologies Corporation. Welcome to the first MATCorp webinar. Here we have the CTO of MATCorp, Dr. Al Green, and the Director of Marketing, Justin Calvitz. Al, take away.
Yes, if you could also direct folks to, if you have questions, please put it in the chat and we'll address those at the end. Okay. Well, welcome to our webinar. We're here to talk to you all about MATCorp. As Kevin said, that's Mid-America Applied Technology Corporation. We're really very excited about this venture, this opportunity. Let me start by a brief introduction of me. I'm Albert Green. I'm the CTO of MATCorp, and I'll pass it to Justin.
Hi, nice to meet everybody. I appreciate everybody attending. And my name is Justin Calvitz. I'm the director at MATCorp, and excited to walk through this information today and hopefully follow up with some of you afterwards as well.
Thank you. Next chart. Okay, let's start with an overview. So let me start by talking about MATCorp's mission, because that's really the core of what we're here to discuss and why we're doing what we're doing. But essentially, it's to make it easy for Ohio companies to capture federal contracts. And our mission really is to funnel that money into the innovation ecosystem. That's our fundamental mission. And then the other thing that we do is we have to develop and deliver operational prototypes to the federal clients that we're going to be supporting in this. And also in that process, we will build networks of a collection of companies that can provide effective, cost-effective solutions for our government customers. Next chart, please. So, if if you've ever thought about doing government contracts are great if you can get them. The funding is typically quite good, and it's what's called non-dilutive capital, in the sense that the government doesn't take, when they invest in developing a technology, they don't take any equity in your company. So it's non-dilutive. And so government contracts are a good thing. Most government contracts that you've heard about fall into this realm, what are called FAR-based contracts, and FAR stands for Federal Acquisition Requirements-based contracts. And typically these contracts are subject to extensive regulatory requirements. There are all kinds of hoops that you have to jump through, lots of red tape that you have to handle. And that's resulted in is you have sort of your usual suspects. You have companies that essentially specialize in capturing and executing government contracts. You've heard the names of several of them, some of the bigger ones, the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins, the Raytheons. These folks have really made a business out of capturing these kind of contracts. They're very good at it. And that's a good thing, actually. If you look at basically when you go out to try to capture and execute on a government contract, it turns out to be, you'll hear terms like BAAs, that's broad agency announcement, SBIRs, that's just strategic business innovative research, STTRs, IDIQs, that's indefinite deliverable, indefinite quantity. Then there's the agencies such as NSF and NIH and DARPA and ONR and AFRL, which is in Ohio here, that's the Air Force Research Lab, and it's literally an alphabet soup of government contracts and government agencies. And as we said before, there's typically strict requirements on capturing business from these customers, and also the types of contracts that you have to perform under. And so at the end of the day, these are the things that you're used to seeing, and they're just very difficult to win and to manage. Next chart. So what we're here to do, MATCorp's mission is to capture, as we said, capture government contracts, but we're after a very specific kind of government contract, and these are called OTAs, or other transactional agreements. And it turns out that these are one of the most rapidly growing government contracting vehicles. Let me give you some of the characteristics of OTAs. OTAs are typically quite large, generally 5 million plus. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They are not under FAR or federal acquisition requirements, so they're less complicated to deal with. They're much easier to capture, to award, and to execute. The government likes OTAs because they are able to allocate funding to people, to companies that will execute on contracts of things that they really need. Again, some of the key characteristics of OTAs are they're traditionally aimed at smaller, non-traditional contractors. Basically, the government, as great as some of the larger companies that are used to doing government contracts have performed, OTAs are really about drawing in a larger ecosystem so that the government can tap into additional assets to deliver the sorts of goods and services that it needs. OTAs are typically focused on developing prototypes. So the work product is typically a prototype. That might be a hardware prototype, it may be a software prototype, it may be some sort of drug or something like that. The next thing, another characteristic, is that OTAs really want to have dual use. That's stressed. In fact, many times it's very difficult to capture an OTA contract unless it has a strong dual use component. Continuing down the list of other characteristics, typically OTAs are executed by a team of companies. A lot of times people say consortium, but there are teams of companies that typically execute OTAs. As in many government contracts, one question that often comes up is, what about the IP? I haven't done much government work in the past. What about the IP? And it's fairly typical. The government wants to maintain the usage rights in their area of use effectively, but the company maintains ownership of the IP that may be developed as the company performs the contract. The final thing is that the contracts that we're after are typically what are called cost plus fixed fee, or CPFF. And essentially, these contracts reimburse, it's much akin to time and materials contracts. They reimburse all direct and indirect costs, and typically there's a fee associated with that, a fee that the government pays on top of the time and materials. Do you have anything to add to that, Justin?
Yeah, I think just focusing on what's important to everybody is there's a lot of money being funneled into this area. It's one of the fastest growing funding areas for the government because it's been very effective. And I think that the different agencies within the government, the different groups, are starting to realize the effectiveness. I think the Army was the one who started to really drive a lot of activity in this space. And so now all the other groups are starting to catch on that this is an effective area, and there's more and more money being funneled into this and continuing to grow. And I think that's what's exciting about this area, is that it's effective and the government's realizing that, and there's more funding being applied to that.
Thank you. Next chart, please, Kevin.
So, it would be great for, the government to work directly with all these thousands of small businesses that are out there, but it's just not realistic for, the different military arms to manage all of that. And so there's been an ecosystem around this whole system, around this whole platform, to be able to execute and drive these different initiatives. And so what's come out of this is a host of different consortia who are each individually working with maybe one or two departments, maybe they're working specifically with the Army and the Navy, or maybe they're working with all the branches of the military. But these consortia are focused on a particular aspect of the development projects. For instance, I was just yesterday at a conference for IWRP, which is Information Warfare Research Project, and they work specifically or primarily with the Navy and the Marine branches, and their focus is around cyber activity, data sciences, cloud computing, AI, ML, on-demand manufacturing capabilities to support all those data systems. Or there's also MTech, who is the Military Medical Technology Enterprise Consortium, who's works across all the different agencies to develop both project treatment and optimization of medical technologies to help warfare fighters, and whether you're just getting in or retired. And so each one of these consortia has an area of focus that they concentrate in, and working with either one or multiple government agencies. And what they're designed to do, and what they're in business to do, is to execute the transition and the coordination between the innovation companies that are out in the marketplace and the government agencies. So Kevin, if you saw it, one more slide down. So what happens is the Army, Navy, Marine, Air Force, and other groups as well will work through their program offices, who are their coordinating teams, to publish what their areas of need are going to be, both short and long term. That then gets translated down to the different consortia groups who may be executing in that particular section or area that they're interested in. Then the consortia puts out what's called an RPP, a request for project proposal, is one of the acronyms that are out there. And that's really what we as an organization are reacting to, what you're interested in and how you participate, because that's a request to say, I need this project executed. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's the outline of that particular project. Here's how much money I have allocated, and here's a timeline associated with that. So it's a project brief, if you will. And so that gets translated down from the military branch to the program officers, who work directly with the consortia to then distribute to their teams. Now, you have to be a member of these consortium to be in the meetings, understand what's coming down, talk to their officers, coordinate back and forth. It's just not put out to the public. And they're basically telling their organizations who are members, here's what we want and here's what we're looking for. And then the bid process starts, and we go from there. So that's the way the process works. But the consortia groups are critical members and critical factors in this whole process, because they're basically the gateways and information train between the particular military branches and what they're looking for, and what our technologies as companies and innovators are. Al, anything to add to that?
Yes, if I could. So in this figure on the very top, you have basically the DoD. And it turns out that the government agencies, it's bigger than this. It's actually the list is what are often referred to as the mission-oriented federal agencies. So that includes Homeland Security. It includes the FBI. It includes other, again, mission-oriented federal agencies. And then they, as Justin has described, what they do is they work through these consortia to decide to tell that this is what we need. Those consortia essentially assemble those into these requests for proposals, which are then submitted into the ecosystem of consortia members. And you don't have to be a member of the consortia to participate in something, but to get all the information of what the bid involves, and to actually lead a bid, yes, you do have to be a part of the consortia. Back to you, Justin.
Yeah, great point. All right.
Next chart.
So from here, the question is, how does all that information get disseminated? And there's a calendar of events that happens annually with the different consortia, and each one is on a different timeline, and has different mechanisms to gain information and learn about what's going on, learn about what's needed in the different groups. But fundamentally, there is a host of industry days that you can participate in person. They do have webinar aspects to dial in, but then you have individual meetings at those industry days that we go to, 4 or 5 times a year per consortia. And then the member meetings are ways to take a look at what's going on longer term. What are they looking for 5 years? What's coming down the pipeline? What are their key areas of focus? And then in between all of these things, typically monthly or every other month, they'll do webinars where they're talking about or allowing the consortium members to ask questions and dive into particular things that are happening, so that we're educated and can understand what's happening throughout the year and what's coming up that might be new. So these program calendars also align with when a lot of the requests for proposals are being published. So they try and publish around the industry days, around these webinars, so that we understand when they're going to be coming out. We can be on the lookout for them. Those calendars are typically similar every year, so we can kind of get a cadence of when the meetings are happening. That way it allows us to look for things, but it also provides a history. A lot of times similar, because the focus areas are consistent. We can look back through history and find out when awards were done, when requests were done in the prior year, and we can predict those and evaluate and understand things that are going to be coming out in the upcoming year as well. We can also look at solicitation details of history, and we can look at what's the pre-proposals saying this is going to be coming out, where they publish some prior information to give you an indication of what's going to be dropping very soon and what the dollars are about. So there's a whole alignment around meetings and webinars and information publishing, as well as history, that being part of these consortium allows us to be involved with and hear. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but that then all gets disseminated down to say, how can we go into our ecosystem in the region and find people ahead of time that might be functionally applicable to one of the things that we believe are going to be coming out.
Okay, next chart, please. So let's dive back into DoD, because DoD is the most mature and has used, in terms of OTAs, I should say, and has used OTAs the most. And so when you look at DoD's key technology focus areas, and they're very open in this, they've actually published 5, 10, 15-year sort of technology focus area reports, which are very helpful. But if you can read through the list, which I won't read all of them, but advanced materials, XR, AR, VR, nanotech, medtech, energy storage, pharma, smart manufacturing. This is just some of the areas. But if you could go to the next chart, please. The key thing is, when you look at that list, okay, you can immediately pick out, and we've done some pre-filtering in that list of what the DoD focus areas are. But when you look at that list, what you can see is that our region actually has some very important thought leaderships in the areas that the DoD is interested in. And so that's one thing that's very important. The second thing that's very important is that, and one of the reasons why we launched MATCorp to begin with, is that historically, Northeast Ohio, and Ohio in general, has not captured its fair share of federal dollars. Now, that's not true for the whole state. Certainly, AFRL and the Dayton area has done very well, but in Northeast Ohio, as we've talked to people about these government kind of contracts, and we say stuff like OTAs or BAAs and stuff, I mean, you kind of get eyes glazing over that people are simply not aware. So why is our region good for these programs? One, we haven't gotten enough of them in the past, and two, we have thought leadership in some of the areas that the DoD and other agencies really want to have access to. Next chart, please.
And I think just to add to
Please,
that,
yeah,
when we're sitting down and we're talking to these program managers and the government agents who are telling us in one-on-one meetings what they're looking for, and we come back to them and say, we have this amazing technology in the region, and we're a hub for this, and we have this sort of bloodline to really, really exciting new innovations and developments. They're excited about it. They are like, wow, we didn't even know that existed. We didn't realize it. And I think there's an interesting excitement around what we are telling them that is available to them, and the connections and the innovations and the advancements going on in our region. And I think that tells you that there's opportunity because both sides are excited about it.
No, thank you, Justin. And I'll just add one more thing to that, and that, what is our region really known for? Or we're known for a lot of things, but one of our principal things is our manufacturing capability, and that is one of the areas that we, typically these operational prototypes, what they're looking for are performing companies that not only can build a prototype, but are in an ecosystem where that prototype can be made into something that can be manufactured. That is one of the biggest areas that we find resonance with when we talk to the government customers. So when you think about the solicitations, what are some of the features of these OTA solicitations? So as we just said, an OTA is generally around an operational prototype. And it's over a period of performance. So that's really the deliverable. We said that before. Typically, a contract award is anywhere from $1 million to $100 million plus. Okay, and that's not a typo on the $100 million plus. One of the things with OTAs is operational prototypes typically are there are more dollars associated with that, and there are multiple team members. The typical period of performance is about 1 to 3 years. That's what we see per usual. OTAs usually include a cost-sharing clause that is waived for bids involving significant non-traditional defense contractors, and that's a point that we would dive into about what constitutes a non-traditional defense contractor. But one of the key criteria is that you're not one of the usual suspects in terms of getting government contracts. Lots of government contracts, these are non-traditional defense contractors. There's lots of terms associated with that. Also, typically the OTA participants, particularly in where you have an operational prototype like a submarine seal door, blast door, or something like that, they will typically end in the performing organization or organizations are pre-qualified for large-scale manufacturing. So not only do you have the dual use aspect where you may take aspects of the technology and sell it into your existing customer set, but quite likely a lot of these will end with you selling it to a government customer. Justin, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think too, I just want to reiterate, these are designed, and again, talking to these program managers, this whole solicitation system is designed to be easier for the participants as a whole. And I think that's really critical in this process, because it's not, coming into this, when you hear government funding or government project, there's a lot of red tape and there's a lot of onus on the company, and there's all these things. This is truly a partnership that allows you to fund programs and project development in conjunction around what the government is looking for, but you're fundamentally getting your prototype or your technology funded to advance it forward. And I think that's really critical, because it's not, I just want to reiterate, it's not what people think of when they think of these giant red tape projects that you're getting involved with the government. They are designed to be easy. They're designed to advance technology.
Correct. Thank you. Next chart, please. Okay, so just to give you a sense of the timelines, typically, there's a pre-announcement, then the RFP is released, then you typically have a white paper. They tell you if your white paper has been selected to proceed to a full proposal. And then after that, if you win the proposal effort, of which there are typically multiple awards, then you go into sort out the final contract. The most important thing to note here is that the window between when an RFP is released and when the white paper is due, when it says 30 days, it's typically 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, and it's as we had pointed out before, typical OTAs, they want to see a team of people, team of companies performing companies and organizations. And so one of the things that we do is, and what we're doing now, the purpose of this webinar, is to line up companies and organizations based on what Justin had talked about before, what we know has happened in the past, what we expect to happen in the future by talking to the program managers attending these industry days, assembling these teams together so that when a solicitation drops, we're ready to drop, we're ready to run, and we're ready to write the proposal and win. Next chart, please.
Real quick,
Yeah,
I think along those lines too, this is why we're building this database that we'll talk about, but understanding what companies' technology advantages are and what we kind of quote as your special sauce. What do you do unique and different, so that we can have that in our back pocket when we see these things coming up. So it's a quick, oh, we know these guys do this, and these guys are okay. Let's do this, and let's put this team together and align things, because we do have to move quickly. So the more we can understand about your company, what you do unique, what you do different, how you can apply to things and have that understanding, just allows us to move that much quicker when these things do come out.
Next chart, please. Thank you.
So, this is just an overview of sort of the process from the government side to the innovators and manufacturing side. There's on the left side, we see the government agencies working through. In the center there, you see the different consortium. I think we're involved in 11 currently, or participate in 11 consortia. You have MATCorp, who coordinates with the consortium members and through that, and then helping to connect with, on the right side, the different innovation technologies in different functional focus areas. And so we play a role to help, as the funnel continues to narrow of what they're looking for, connecting that the manufacturing side, the innovation, the development, the small non-traditional side, back through and coordinate to make sure that what the government's looking for and their needs are easily connected to the region's asset base of technologies and advancements. So,
next,
anything to add to that, Al?
No.
So, the question is what does MATCorp do in this whole process? And just to sum it up in a couple of statements, this database that we're working to develop as we're looking to bring funding to the region, is building a database to understand the capabilities and the different regional assets of what do you do that's different, what do you do that's unique in all the different focus areas. And that allows us to move quickly and really coordinate and manage when these solicitations drop, and also have a leg up on talking to the program managers when we're meeting, saying, oh, we have a couple of companies that do this. Boy, you should talk to these guys. Do you have anything that this company might be able to, or that this technology may apply to, and sort of working both ends of things to be matchmaker for these projects. And then once we figure out that team and that opportunity, that solicitation that drops, engaging with all the different program managers to understand how best to execute those, assembling the team to then go after those proposals, and then back end helping to manage that development process to keep it on time, make sure we're delivering what the government's looking for, managing the contracts, all those things. So we as a functional area are an interface to make sure people are aware of what's going on, both from the government and from the innovation side of things. We're making sure that the process works smoothly to go bring the right people to those solicitations, and then executing to make sure that the process is run smoothly, on time and on budget, to execute so everybody wins.
If I could just add one point to that. I mean, I think there are entities out there that are, basically are matchmakers. They say, okay, here's an opportunity, a potential contract, and here's a collection of company or a company that can execute on it. Here it is. See you guys later. On to the next one. That's not MATCorp. MATCorp, we identify the opportunity. We're actively building the teams. We're actively writing the white paper with the team members, and then we're actively managing the project. So we're not for profit, and our mission is to bring innovation dollars to the region, and we're actively involved in capturing those. Next chart, go ahead.
So this is I love this visual because it's so easy, right? There's innovation on one side of the chart and there's money and government needs on the other side. And the idea is that we want to bring those two sides together and bring funding to our region as best as we can, and provide partners that allow you to advance your technologies and get them into the market faster and cheaper and all those things. And so what MATCorp really, again, we identified the needs and opportunities, we assembled a team, we developed the proposal with you as partners, or we're a team member on that panel, executing the agreement, manage interactions, all that stuff. But the bottom line is we're all in this for money. In an easy, effective way that doesn't deter our business, but advances it. And as best we can, that's what we love doing. We want to do that, and us being connected and engaged and understanding what's going on the government needs side, it allows us to take these amazing advancements, amazing innovations, and amazing technology innovations, and really take them to a place that I don't think many people were aware is available to them. You got anything to add to that?
No, that's great. Go to the last chart.
What's the proverbial? We want to give you money. Take our money. So how do you work
government money?
Government money, yeah, not our money. We're happy to give you money too. So on the, at the end of the day, the question is, how do you work with us, and how do you get involved in this whole thing? And the real answer is just submit your interest and let us know what's going on. We'll have a conversation with you. We'll get to know your business a little bit. Again, what's your special sauce? What's your company? What are you looking for in this whole process? And where do you think your technology advancement can apply? Once we understand that, we can be on the lookout for, and let us know you want to be involved. Once we do that, we can then really better align what you're doing and what you're looking for with these government projects that are coming out, whether it be keeping aware of when the solicitations are coming out and dropping, or we can also take your technology and bring that to the program manager saying, do you have an area for this? Here's a technology, we think it can do this, this, and this. Do you have any interest in that? And really pushing it up the hill as well as bringing it down the hill. And then ultimately working with you to develop that structured delivery plan once a solicitation is dropped, and executing on that proposal that may apply to you. It's really not hard, right? It's basically raising your hand, saying we want to be involved, keeping us up to date on what you're doing and what's new, and that allows us to really carry your flag and post a flag at the top of the hill when those things come up.
Kevin, I think that's the last chart. So
yes, and I think that concludes the presentation for this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to put into the Q&A. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to contact us at info@matcorp.org. Without further
or any
ado,
of our LinkedIns as well. We can also be connected via LinkedIn.
Well, thank you everyone for attending.